So I had the Blon Mini for quite some time now. Before the 10 years before I got a... What IMs did I do before the 10 years? Before quite a lot of IMs or headphones. But I never actually even wanted to review these because the thing about these one-hit wonder type of hi-fi brands, such as the Tin Hi-Fi, I think Tin Hi-Fi is not least of a one-hit wonder. They do things well occasionally, but most of the time, or like half of the time, they suck. But they, for example, maybe Has It Sound, but we haven't even seen anything yet after that mirror. Or maybe something like Campfire Audio. I know it's not hi-fi, but Campfire Audio, I think their #1 IM is just the Andromeda, and the rest kind of the same thing about Blon. In my opinion, the #1 Blon IM to date, excluding the Prometheus because I haven't listened to that one yet, is the Blon 03, the original Blon. The Blon 01 is somewhat okay. It's a good IM. It's a good sounding IM, though it lost the charm that you have with the Blon 03s. It's such a very pleasant sounding, thick sounding IM with its mid-range and its excellent type of lush and liquid presentation. But due to the problem, I do understand why would they make something like the Blon 01s, because the Blon 03 is definitely not a perfect IMS, even at this price point, because it has a very slow type of transients that's quite bloomy, especially in the bass region. It's also not the most detailed, however, in the Blon 01, although they don't really fix the detail problem that well, I think they do quite fix the speed problem, because the Blon 01 is a bit less bloomy, I guess, than the Blon 03s. But with the release of the Blon Mini, I have no idea what the hell they are improving from the Blon 01s. I really have no idea. It's at least with Tin T5, it's something different, okay? It's at least it's something fucking different. However, with the Blon Mini, they just try to do these two, but worse, because I don't know, man. The Blon Mini just sounds like a disappointment. At least with the Tin T5, the disappointment is more extreme, I guess. It gives me the feeling of what the fuck is this shit tuning. But with the Blon Mini, it's just okay. You have the excellently tuned Blon 03s, and then you go with the Blon 01, which fix the problems you have in the Blon 03 in terms of that speed type of thing. However, it lost the tuning of the Blon 03, so it's a bit too V-shaped in my opinion. It's a V-shaped version of the Blon 03. It has a bit rougher type of highs, and it has that dip in the mid-range. However, they just double down the V-shape because of like the Blon 01 is received very well because it fixed the bloominess problem of the Blon 03. It's although not it's not free of bloom, it's not free of bleeding, bass bleeding, because the bass here is elevated, if not more elevated, but it's tighter, it's more it's faster, it's more precise, that it doesn't feel as overwhelming than the Blon O3s. But with the bass, I think you can fix it with a wide bore ear tips, or something like a less bassy type of cables, or a source, or anything else like that. Maybe not less bassy type of cable, because cables don't change frequency response like most of the time, unless the cable is really fucked up. They should not change frequency response. However, with the Blon Mini, I have no idea what the hell they're trying to do. I mean, they just make the Blon 01 but more V-shaped. It doesn't make sense, because it doesn't fix anything. It just introduced more problems than the Blon 01s. It has similar types of transient response. It's quite a bit faster than the Blon 03s. It's equally as tight as the Blon 01s. It's even less wide in its soundstage. I have no idea what they are trying to do with the Blon Mini. They haven't accomplished in the Blon 01. Maybe making them V-shaped, or making them like macaroni shape or something, like literally V-shaped like this. I have no fucking idea what they're trying to do with the Blon Mini, and that's the TLDR. And this is the box. The box kind of looks like something Apple would probably make, which is okay, I guess. Yeah. What you get in the box is you of course got the IM. The cable is actually pretty useful here. It's not absolutely garbage type of cable that you'll find here, the Blon 01s or the Blon 03s. Let the music burn, Blon Mini. You also get like spare ear tips and this thing, which is okay, though not as useful. And yeah, you get the usual Blon ear tips. I think you get quite a lot of ear tips. Actually, I ripped one of this. I torn like one of this accidentally. That's how crappy these things are actually built. Chickens. The ear tips are your standard crappy ear tips, and yeah, nothing much in the box, but they do serve their purpose pretty well. Except for probably the tips, you need to have a bit that thing replaced if you're actually going to buy one of these. The cables are good. It feels nice. It's straight jack, which I actually prefer than angle jack, because I usually desktop these. Or I use with adapt, but I don't actually mind having straight jack instead of angle jacked. So the tuning is V-shape. Let's get to the sound. This is the sound. This is the sound portion, okay? The tuning is V-shaped. It's more V-shaped than these. More V-shaped than these. It's a bit more actually V-shaped than the MH755. So if this is not a Blon, I think I would consider this as a somewhat decent sounding IM with the standard hi-fi V-shaped sound at its price point. So it's going to be just like the regular hi-fi type of headphone. It's exactly like what would you expect a hi-fi tuning, albeit it has quite a unique shape. With the Blon 01s and the Blon 03s, they basically redefined their price bracket when they actually were released, because the Blon 03s was one of those hyped IMs that actually, in my opinion, they are worth their hype. And the Blon ones, I do absolutely understand why people would really like the Blon ones. I actually do like the Blon ones, but I just like the Blon 3s a bit better. So yeah, the Blon Mini is just, the bass is very elevated. I think it's a bit more elevated than the Blon 1s. It's definitely more elevated than the Blon 3s. So it's elevated. It's quite punchy in my opinion. It's not the fastest, definitely. It's quite okay in transients, but it's not the most snappy type of bass. It's okay, I guess. The mid range here is dipped as fuck. I don't understand why Blon would move to at this direction. I have no idea why, because they actually do phenomenal in neutral with bass boost. They should stay there, in my opinion. If they continue to build IM like these, like the Blon 3s, just with better technical performance, maybe if they don't have the money to buy more expensive drivers, but I highly doubt that, because they do make a lot of money selling these IMs, and they could just maybe do a bit of damping or something else, a modification to keep the tuning and fix their problems. Maybe they do some type of internal wiring change or anything else, in my opinion, because these are excellent. However, these are just bland and just regular. It's not terrible, it's not horrendous, it's just disappointing, in my opinion. The treble presentation, it's V-shaped, although they do peak differently than the Blon ones. In my opinion, they don't have that type of gritty type of treble, but they do introduce, they do sound quite a bit brighter, I guess, than the Blon ones. Has a bit more treble energy, but it doesn't have that type of roughness in its texture. Though it's dry, it makes the IM sound quite dry, in my opinion. So yeah, not the most pleasant sounding in terms of tonality. In terms of technicality, it's still not one of the best. It got stomped by something like the 10T2s if you're looking for technicalities, or the Has a Sound Hard Mirror if you're looking for technicalities. It has a bit better imaging than the Blon 3s, but the Blon 3s have terrible imaging, in my opinion. It's not terrible, it's just average, I guess. Average imaging in the price range of $30. While these being more expensive, I would expect, if you don't have good tuning, you should have good technicalities. However, Blon's not known for great technicality, so why don't you just stick with the tuning? It doesn't make fucking sense. However, I think that the technicalities here is sufficient, though not as good as I would prefer to make this like one of the contender at this price range, because these are definitely not the contender of this price range, in my opinion. I would still stick to the 03s even if they're at the same price. So yes, the transient is okay. It's not as mushy. It's not as slow as the Blon, or sluggish as the Blon 03s, but they're still acceptable, in the acceptable range. The soundstage is quite narrow. It's not the most expansive type of soundstage. It doesn't have the soundstage of the Blon 03s or the Blon 01s, or even the Blon 01s. The imaging is solid. It's okay. The detail retrieval is similar with the Blons and the Blondes. They do all have quite similar detail retrieval, although the better speed of the minis might contribute for you to hear the details better than the Blon 03s, than the stock Blon 03s at least. So yeah, the timbre here I read quite a few reviews of the Mini, and I saw some mention them to have excellent timbre. Some of them might say that they have terrible timbre. I think I'm more leaning towards they have solid timbre. However, due to their tuning, they suck. The timbre suck just because of their tuning. It ruins the timbre. But if you don't really care about having that type of realism type of sound, you don't care to have that wetness to the music, it's fine, I guess. It's not a huge problem. It's okay, I guess. For comparison, I did a lot of comparison with these IMs already. I don't know if I actually need to do more comparison. Maybe against the MH755. It's one of those V-shape-ish IMs, like harmonish V-shape-ish IMs that are tuned very well. And I think there is another version of the MH755, and let me look for it. And it's this, the MH750, which is a slightly more V-shaped version of the MH755. They are good, however, people actually prefer the MH755 because it's less V-shaped. That's why making something less V-shaped, in my opinion, and more neutralish, it's more natural sounding. It makes sense to me. However, if you're trying to make something V-shaped, at least do your research first, I guess. Don't do stupid shit like just following the KZ type of tuning. I don't know. If your company is like Blon and known for the tuning, do your research on the tuning. That's just plain fucking obvious, in my opinion. I have no idea why they just don't do it. So yeah, I guess that's it for the review of the Blon Minis. In my opinion, it's a wrong step to the wrong. It's a right step, actually. It's a right step to the wrong direction if you're looking to go that way. I don't think the direction of the Blons is here, because it's different if you're going. I kind of mentioned this IM before a few times. It's the D to Dream. I think it's not a very correct in terms of tonal balance for an IM, the D to the Dream. But if you buy that IM, you would expect to get something very detailed. You would expect to get something very technically proficient, that you don't actually care about the tonal balance. So that's why I like the D to the Dream. However, with the Blondes, they actually don't have enough technical performance to compensate their terrible tuning for the Blon Mini. I guess that's it. Maybe if you actually like something more V-shaped than these two, you might really like the Blon Mini. But maybe not terrible tuning. It's okay tuning. However, it's not Blon 03's or even Blon 01's tuning, and it's more expensive too. So doesn't make sense in my opinion. So I guess that's it for the review. Don't forget to watch Jason's videos. See you next time. Godspeed.